Hey, it's me, Mike Lepre, Legit Fantasy Sports, presenting Legit Fantasy Basketball. It is Thursday, January 14th, 2021. Joining me first is Brother Ray. Brother Ray, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great, King.
Good. TJ, the man with the wisdom, how are you tonight in Orange?
Good afternoon. I am terrific. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Getting there. We got a genius with us in the house, Genius Kev. Genius, how are you doing tonight on basketball?
Doing great, King. Looking forward to talking to TJ. Been looking forward to this conversation all week, by the way. So, TJ, I hope you're ready to bring it again.
Ready to go.
Okay, so usually there's sort of a method for this show, like, a platform, a plan. But then James Harden happened, and it changes everything. His flabby ass changes everything. It's just unbelievable the power he wields. So, Genius, I know you want to get into him. I'm going to let you lead in on this. And so give me some of your genius stats, so to speak.
Mike, King, I don't even have stats for this yet because it's so insane. And I've been looking at this for a couple of days or a day or so and listening to stuff and researching. And I have about 11 or 12 different angles, that I want to talk about. But the first one that I'm really interested with DJ is kind of getting right into the gameplay, because I know we're going to hit about the attitudes and is it good for the NBA and all that. But just the gameplay, the three of those on one team, the amount of I was looking into the isolation numbers for Harden. Apparently, the last few years he's been in isolation about 3,400 times, which is twice as much as the second guy. Like, how does that work for involving Irving, Kyrie, and KD? I mean, I'm sorry to get right into it, but I'm really curious how they actually play together. I have a ton of opinions on whether it's a good move for the NBA and all that stuff, but I'm really interested in that first.
I think it's going to start almost like when LeBron hooked up with Wade in Miami, where it's going to take them a while to figure out who does what and who goes where. And I'll tell you what, I feel like Kevin Durant's the best player of the three, but because of the nature of the way he plays, he's going to be the one that suffers the most in terms of getting shots, because Kyrie and Harden both just love to pound the ball and pound the ball and pound the ball. And I can see a situation where they look really good, because don't forget, James Harden is a high assist man. He really is. And Kyrie can shoot it. So you can see the way that could possibly work. Or I can see them just looking like two selfish bastards going, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. And Kevin Durant standing in the corner like, what am I doing here with these two guys? So I can see it going in two different directions. I think at the beginning it's like a shiny new toy, right? And they'll probably play nice in the sandbox. But even before Harden came along, Kyrie was taking all the shots in the last 6 minutes of closed games, and Durant was like being there as a bystander, and he's just way too good for that. So personality-wise, it's combustible, but on the floor, something's got to give, because you can't have two guys that just dribble the ball at the top of the key. It just doesn't work that way.
Brother Ray, what are your thoughts?
I'm just glad. I mean, as a Sixer fan, I can just say I'm really happy that he's in Brooklyn. I'm extremely happy that he's in Brooklyn, and they did not ruin my team with that fat guy that likes to shoot with the beard.
Right.
I mean,
Ray, I got to jump in, and I know this isn't going to be a Sixers discussion, but I'm a Sixers fan myself. So here was my thing going in, right?
you know that.
So at first, obviously, when you hear James Harden's coming to your team, it's disgusting to hear, and you're like, I don't want to watch James Harden play 82 nights a year. But then as the rumors picked up and the Sixers continue to be exactly the same team they are every single year for the last 5 years, I was a little disappointed when he didn't come to us, because it would have been something different. Like, I feel like I'm so sick of Ben Simmons putting up 14, 7, and 7 and taking freaking off-balance runners. Like, I was like, you know what? Let's try this Harden thing. And if it sucks, who cares? At least it's different. So, I guess basketball-wise, it's better to have Ben Simmons. But I was a little disappointed when he went to New Jersey. just because the Sixers got to do something, man. They are not interesting. It's like a carryover for 3 years. We've been watching the same thing happen. So anyway,
they tried, by the way, King. They did try to get him, but I think the offer was Simmons and Thibault, and they weren't. Because right now, if you look at the Sixers, Shake Milton, Tyrese Maxey, before the season, they would have been included in that deal. I don't think they wanted to include those guys in the deal now with the way they've been playing. So that's, I think, why Brooklyn ended up with, obviously, with all their picks, they ended up the better destination.
It's true. Shake's got 19 tonight when I turned off the TV. I don't know. He's probably over 20 by now. So, yeah, he's playing real well. You don't want to get rid of those guys, but Jesus.
It's just that Embiid's playing at MVP level, right? We'd agree that he's probably MVP. Oh, I mean,
he's in the discussion.
He's in the discussion, but he's like playing at that level right now. So it's like if you could have just put Harden there, it actually makes more sense for a shooter like Harden to join a team that they got a point guard that can't shoot a jumper, but he's physical in a center that can do everything, as opposed to going to a team that has like another guy who's a crybaby shooter, dribbler, and then a guy who becomes complacent, and he's just gonna watch them, like you said, dribble and just sit there and watch them be babies.
And I'll tell you, Kevin Durant. So I went from Curry and Thompson play such a beautiful brand of basketball, and Harden and Kyrie just don't. That's like, yeah, okay, I want to team up with my 3 best buds, but he might have wanted. There's a big difference from the dynamic they had in Golden State to what they're going to have when these 3 get together. I mean, man, Hard Knocks. They're filming that whole team. It should be Hard Knocks. HBO should send a crew and just follow them for the next 3 months.
So let me ask you guys this question, right? I don't know if you've been keeping up on everything, but Bradley Beal in Washington, right? Every time they talk about Bradley Beal in Washington, they act like Bradley Beal is stuck on an island, lost. Like they they show sympathy when they speak of Bradley Beal being in Washington. Like I heard 2 or 3 people be like, really sympathetic, and I was just thinking, like, how bad is it for Bradley Beal in Washington? And so I watched, and it's really bad for Bradley Beal in Washington. So what do you do if you're Bradley Beal? I mean, literally, I didn't realize how bad it was for him. He's look at that team. Like, what do you do if you're that? So put yourself in that position. You're that good of a player, because he is really good. What do you do? How's the game played out nowadays? What do you do to get yourself out of there?
I'll tell you what, it says a lot about Bradley Beal that you don't hear him on having his press conferences talking about get me out of here. Like, that says a lot about his character, because in this league, if you don't like where you are, you just bitch and moan until they trade you. And he hasn't done that as far as I know. I mean, I'm not really watching the Wizards post games, but he seems like he's just there playing ball. I don't know how you build around. Like, I don't think they have any pieces in order to build. So I think he's just out here taking jump shots and waiting for his next contract, which will not be there. It just won't be there.
What do you, DJ or Brother Ray, like, what do you think of the whole Westbrook Beal backcourt? Like, I'm not a Westbrook fan. I'll just go right out there. I mean, it's fun to watch. He's like a one-man wrecking crew, but I don't think he's ever going to win a championship in his current role the way he plays. Do you see those two somehow working it out, and like being productive as a backcourt, or is it just let's go run the clock out for 73 games and then we'll try something else in the offseason?
Go ahead, Ray. What do you think?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, not to make this a Sixer podcast, but they're talking about him as Plan B. The talk now is, hey, what can we put up? Will they take Simmons? They're already talking about him. Now, is he a number 1? That's what we all have to think about. Is he the number 1 dominant person that can come in there, an alpha guy that can take over a team? I think he is. I think offensively he is, but the other side of the ball, I mean, you give up Simmons, you're giving up that, because he plays great defense. So I don't know, but they've been talking about him.
There's 2 dynamics with Beal to me. It's easier to score when you're always getting blown out. Like there are open shots to be had when you're down 20 at halftime, and he makes shots. I don't know if he was that good. Wouldn't there be a playoff team? Like, if you're that good, you could drag a team right now. The Westbrook and him, that just was a mess. First of all, Westbrook lost a step, right? In my head, he doesn't look the same as he did a couple of years ago when he was getting triple doubles. But those two guys, they would have to add another big. I mean, they have like 3 or 4 pieces to add to be a real contender in the East. And the East, every single week, the East looks better than the West, more and more and more and more and more. So those guys are just going to be buried down there in the lottery until something explodes. Well, I get a feeling like it'll be Westbrook that does.
2 things really quick. One, I noticed on average, the year of COVID made a couple of players just go soft. You know what I mean? There's a lot of doughy players, in my opinion, in the league this year. A lot of guys have that. Not Paul Pierce, but what's his name? Walker.
Walker.
I always forget first names. Yeah, you know his physique, where it's like, is he in shape? I don't know. Maybe because it's kind of the form of being in shape, but it looks kind. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Like, brother, you get what I'm saying? That he had that weird type of physique. But all right. Besides that, are the Suns the best team in the league? Can you make an argument for the fact that, wait a minute, in the West they have the Suns? That's the best team in the league, isn't it? Like, no, close.
Well, I mean, the Lakers just got done playing, and you know how it is with these teams that make a finals run. They have to. It takes them a while to get their engine running. I mean, there's no possible circumstance where someone's taking the Suns over the Lakers. I don't care where the series is when we get to the spring. But right now, the Suns are playing the best basketball. You can't question that. I mean, they're a young team. They had a long layoff. They got fresh legs, and they seem to have it together, which is good because I like the operation. I like what they've been trying to do in Phoenix. Like, for some reason, that's not a destination for anybody, even though it's Arizona in a winter sport. It doesn't make sense. But to me, the Lakers are still the best team until someone knocks them off. I mean, LeBron's going to turn it on at some point when the weather gets nice.
Yeah, see, brother, what do you think? I mean, your opinions, because they are right now. Right now, they're like, I guess, technically the best team, in my opinion. But he's right. Like, LeBron's like Godzilla in the sense that, eventually this fog's going to come and he's going to come slowly coming out of the thing and, crush the city. So I get that. But what do you think about right now? What do you like? Have you been following the Suns, watching them? They're incredibly fun to watch.
Exciting. I mean, you're talking, a young team other than Paul. I mean, they're all young. They're all coming into their own. I mean, Bridges looks amazing. I mean, Booker, we already knew was a stud. And someone like a Jay Crowder, just so valuable, like, to a team, the things that he does, the dirty stuff that he does. And Ayton's a stud. So, I mean, if you look at their talent on paper, it's really strong. But, like TJ said, once you hit the playoffs, and that's why I really get mad with the NBA now, because it's like a joke. I mean, other than these super teams, it's like you have the same thing. These super teams, they wait till the end. They rest the whole regular season, and then LeBron gets off the bench for the playoffs, and they win another championship.
2 things. One, the Lakers are 10-3, and I feel like they're not even trying. It looks like, and we talked about this last week. It was 3 games into the season, and guys were taking days off for rest. Like, that just shows you that they just have no regard for the regular season whatsoever. No. Like, at least in baseball, every couple of weeks they'll throw in that game like it's a scheduled loss, right? And you'll start sitting guys. In the NBA, they do that once a week. Like, these guys are going to play 50. They shorten the season anyway. You got star guys that are going to play 45 regular season games. And then in the playoffs, everyone's going to have that full roster. And I don't think seeding is going to matter, especially if there's no fans in the building. So I like what Phoenix is doing, though, because they're showing up every night, and that's half the battle. And they're right there.
So, all right. I wanted to do a part here on like bad guys of like guys that kind of cheat in basketball. Like, it's to be completely honest, when I played basketball, I cheated like a bastard. There was an art to it. So there was some players. It's almost like liking Rowdy Piper. That's kind of what I compare it to. But I want to throw some names in they're kind of old school guys. I want to get a little bit of reaction in your thoughts of where you would rank them as far as guys that you remember being tough guys or problems. Start with Anthony Mason, Bill Lambert.
Bill Lambert.
Of the two, who would you take right there, TJ?
Bill Lambert's a
Lambert.
All right.
Yeah, you got to take Lambert. I mean, Mason had a nice little 2-3 year window where he was like an enforcer, but Lambert did it for a decade, and he did it against great players. Like he wasn't a badass picking on small guys. He was a badass picking on, trying to fight Robert Parrish, who was like 7'3". Like he had no fear, that guy. I don't know where he got it from. He wasn't all that athletic.
He was a prick.
But he was just a punk. Like he really was. And when they did that Jordan documentary, like the best episodes were the ones when they were talking about Detroit and that rivalry. And on ESPN2 at the same time, they were running the Bad Boys that they did, that 30 for 30. And man, those guys were like, they weren't playing a role. Like they really came in to like try and knock people out.
Yep.
And you can't get away with that stuff now. Like you really can't. You throw a punch now and forget it. You'll be leading off, all the cable networks. But back then, man, you come in the paint, it hurt.
Brother Ray, right? You agree?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at that whole Pistons team between him and Sally. I mean, they would just if you came in the paint, you were going to get hit, and that's pretty much what they did. Nobody got under a person's skin more than Lambert. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was that face of his, those expressions, and he'd get under your skin, and then he'd hit a 25-footer to break your heart. He would do all that damage, and then he'd hit that clutch shot to beat you. So he had that ability where he could get in under your skin, and then boom, lights out.
In defense of Anthony Mason, he was really like a beast down low. He would hammer you and talk to you while he did it. He wasn't on the pace same level as Lambert. I think Lambert was just more of a prick. He's all athletic.
Speaking of both of those guys, if Brooklyn, I was talking about this last night in a different conversation about what Brooklyn needs to keep those screwballs all together, right? I know Kev wanted to get into the personality thing. They almost need a guy like Anthony Mason in that locker room, or some kind of Tyrone Hill or some. I don't know that role exists in the NBA anymore, though, because they're drafting kids out of high school and there's no vets anymore. Like there really are. If you look on benches, you don't see like 40-year-old like men down there. You see 19-year-old projects with arms and legs dangling everywhere. But you look at that Nets team, if they had an Anthony Mason, that'll keep Kyrie's little ass in line. I'm telling you that right now. And I think that's something that they wish they had.
The next two are Charles Barkley and Charles Oakley. Those are two guys, right? That were bad guys. Obviously, I think Barkley was by far the better player, but I guess Barkley was more of a prick too, right? Like he had his moments. Who was more of the? But then again, Oakley was a real prick too. His whole career, wherever he went, he was the hammer. He was like the enforcer. Where I don't think Barkley was technically the enforcer, right? He was more of a
man wherever he was. Barkley did a lot of after the play shit.
Yeah.
Kicking a cameraman, punting the ball, talking trash to some Slovenian guy shooting free throws. Barkley has a lot of little anecdotes, but during the game, Barkley was too focused on being the best player on the floor, whereas Oakley's job was to make sure you didn't foul whoever the best player on his team was. Like you're not going to wring Michael's neck because the next time we're going to run a screen and roll, I'm going to hit you with an elbow right in the jaw. And that was kind of Oakley's thing. But, Barkley, that year when he was on Phoenix, he was the best player in that world that whole year. Going to the Olympics and into that, he was better than Jordan that year. And, but his stuff was all off the court's business. And he's terrific on TV, Barkley. I love Barkley.
I think he's short. He's definitely much shorter than advertised. And we actually have a Barkley story.
Like these.
So I'm young. So that's a long time ago. So I have no idea the year, but I'm young, so it has to be a long time ago, right? And I'm in a bar in Florida. Like that Pleasure Island, whatever it's called, Treasure Island, where adults go at night or whatever to hit the clubs. And we come in a club, and there's Charles Barkley. Like because you notice him because of his head. He's so like you could spot his head. It's like it's like Waldo, whatever his name is. You just go, boom, Barkley, right? So he's got this big entourage around him. Now, see, what you don't know about Brother Ray is this: Brother Ray is calm. He's calm all the time. He stays calm. He's the calm person, right? But when liquor gets involved, and there's mass amounts of it, and you get in a public, he becomes the one that you actually have to worry about. He jumps you in difficulty, and so I remember we all turned, and you look back, and all you see is this small Italian with 2 beers making his way through the crowd as if he belongs. And I think somebody in the entourage finally realized and was like, right? And you can take it from there, Brother Ray, with your
Yeah, obviously being a big Sixer fan, being in the house with Charles Barkley, how many times you get a chance, to see someone like that. So I bought 2 beers. I think they were Heinekens. So it wasn't like Ripple or anything, it wasn't like, Natty Light or anything like that. I walked over there and I wanted to buy Charles a beer. Obviously, his entourage got in the way, and they were very close to throwing me out. And then Charles came over. I said, "Hey, Charles, I'm a big Sixer fan. I just wanted to buy you a beer. Thank you for everything you did for Philly." It was right when he had left and was going to Phoenix.
Okay.
So he looked at his handler, looked at me. He's like, "Thanks, man."
Took the beer,
and people started clapping, and that was it.
Awesome story.
Wow.
Awesome.
Great story.
Because he was at the height of his power then too. I'm surprised he's within 100 yards of him. Now
He was a lot thinner than I thought. Mike King, can you agree? Would you agree he was a lot thinner than you thought he would be?
Oh yeah, he's a lot smaller in general.
Yeah, well, 6'4".
Oh, I thought he was dead because like I'm saying, when I turned around, he's like bopping around through the entourage. It's like walking through shocks. I'm like, what are you going to get? What's he doing? That's all I'm thinking. But he's like, hey. All right. So we made some picks from last week.
Wait, Mike, one second quick. You skipped my 2 favorite ones. You didn't do Rodman Mahorn. And the only reason why I want to bring it up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As a Celtics fan, is something else you can't do. Johnny Most calling Celtics games called them McDirty and McNasty.
Yeah,
throughout the call. So it would be, I can't do his voice. I wish I could do his gravelly voice. McDirty passes it over to McNasty. It's out to Lambeer, 22-footer. He hits it. And, imagine an announcer calling a player McDirty and McDirty today. He'd be off the air tomorrow. And he did it every game. Every game. It was freaking unbelievable. He hated the Pistons so much, and it went through. Now, I don't know if fans hate other teams. Celtics and the Pistons used to hate each other. The Bulls and the Pistons hated each other. Lakers and Celtics hated each other. Now it's a bunch of millionaires, not even millionaires, like Desi millionaires, even bigger. I don't think they really care. But those games and hearing Most make the calls were unbelievable.
You can't really hate a guy in the NBA because next year he could be on your team.
Yeah.
There's no, You want to talk about millionaires? You realize. Yeah. James Harden cost himself $13 million from the Houston tax rate in Texas, New York. Can you imagine having that much money that you could say, you know what, 13 mil, no big deal.
I don't care. Yeah.
No big deal. I'm going to Brooklyn.
Yep.
Yeah. Imagine an announcer doing that.
McDirty. Oh man.
But Rodman is in a level, in my opinion, above everybody else. He did something that was perfect. He's that perfect. You got 2 stars. He'll do all the rest of the work.
Yep.
That's the perfect guy, in my opinion, of all time. Is Dennis Rodman.
I don't think Rodman was a dirty player. I think he was just crazy.
Yeah.
I think Mahorn was trying to hurt people. I think Rodman was just a young, bouncy thoroughbred that was way too aggressive and didn't know when to stop. But Mahorn and Lambeer those guys were they were there for a reason. Rodman was there to like actually try, and as he got older, he obviously went a little cuckoo. I met him one time. He was an interesting cat, man. Let me tell you, he is an interesting cat. So our picks last week, King, not good.
No,
It's not good.
no. The NBA swung. We were going this way, and it went that way. So, I don't know. Did anyone else do the count?
I did not.
No, I'll be honest. I want the truth. I started to do the count.
And I was like,
I get depressed, and I stopped doing it. I was like, I'm not doing this.
I think the only game I won on the weekend was when Philly had to sit their whole team in the most bogus, unfair operation I ever saw.
Should have never been played.
At least I picked Denver in that one. I'll be all right. This COVID thing is a problem in the NBA if they're not going to do it fairly, because the night after Philly had to play with 7 bench guys, right? And it was good to see the rookie go for 39, but the next night you're canceling a game because of COVID.
Right.
So now if that comes down to a spot in the playoffs, no one's going to remember that it happened except me, because this is stuff that pisses me off.
Yeah.
But if we're going to make some teams play with 8 guys, then we're going to make all teams play with 8 guys. And I think that's going to be something they're going to have to work out, especially when it gets towards the end. Imagine if there's an outbreak on a team in the playoff in the last 5-10 games, and you're going to say, no, you got to play with your bench. And then the next night, well, you guys aren't going to have to dress. It's unbalanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Why can't they just have a bunch of people come down with all the different kinds of shots and just give all the NBA players all the shots right now? Like I don't mind if they skip the line. Like, you know what I mean? Get them every vaccine possible. Get them on the goddamn floor. Because the other day I saw a couple canceled, and I'm going. I actually had because I am stupid. The stupidity. My thought was, for a second, was like, why are they canceling? Like, why are they canceling games? And then I'm like, I realize I'm an idiot because I do know why, because of the COVID thing. And I agree with you. If you have 8 players, you can only do certain things. If someone has 12, they could do a lot of other things. They want to be pricks about it, right? If the other coach wants to be a prick about it, he can take advantage of that and completely change that game. I think that's what it is, right? TJ?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when one of your 8 plays is Dwight Howard, and he's going to be tired after he makes 2 trips up and down the floor. So you're really playing with 7. I mean, great for the young kids to get an opportunity to play, but
can't compete.
You can't compete to win. You're trying to get a high seed in the playoffs so you can avoid Giannis, and you're going to take like a league. Basically, the league gave you a loss, and then the next night, Boston and Miami, who you're fighting with, they're like, "Yo, you guys don't look good enough tonight. We're just going to shut you down."
Amazing.
Well, what the hell?
I thought the rule was you have to have 8. Is it not? In the Boston Miami didn't have 8, but is that or is there some gamesmanship with how you maybe you don't put 8 forward? Like what is it a strict 8 or is there something else going on?
I know the rule is. I'd like to see them add a couple of guys on the bench for just this situation so we can have some continuity. I mean, the way that the G League works now is they're running the same sets with pretty much the assistant coach there. So these guys are pretty much interchangeable. You've got a lot of guys on 2 ways. Maybe give them another 2-way roster spot so we don't have to have these nights off. But as you know, these guys, healthy guys, there's healthy scratches every night in the NBA. So you know what? My ankle hurts tonight, so this way we don't have to play. That sounds like something a team would do. It sure does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they had 3 draft picks. The Sixers had 3 draft picks in their lineup. They had Reed, Maxey, and Joe, right? They had all of them are playing. That's crazy.
Joe came out there. He was like, I'm gonna take 20. He went 4 for 18. He was like, yeah, no, this is gonna be the only game I play. I'm playing.
The picks were like I wonder if it's because here's what I'm trying to say. It's changing every group of games, the NBA. There are different teams turning the corner and playing well. Certain teams are sitting down. We don't know what's going on. I think the top teams are still the top teams, but I think all the middle teams kind of keep shifting. I think that's what's making it tough to predict games right now. That's my betting opinion. Like, I'm having a hard time with those mid-level games or mid-level teams, should I say, when they play each other, because I keep guessing the wrong goddamn side. Like that's what happened in any of those games, any of those matchups. I guessed the wrong side. Genius, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Exactly what you're saying. Plus, we're trying to pick games like 3 days out. So if I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday night. Who knows who's going to be who's going to be up, who's going to be down, who has COVID, who doesn't. So you pick it now based on best your best efforts. But there's a lot changed. There's a lot in play, like you said.
And then you have teams that should be better that aren't. Like Denver's a good team, and they're under 500 right now. I think I picked them to win twice last week, and they just for whatever reason they're just not clicking where they need to be. And then you have.
When's it going to settle down?
Huh?
When is it going to settle down? Like when is it going to start to be basketball again? Like when is it going to settle down? Be basketball again?
The playoffs. Like
you know what it is?
Like everything is gearing up towards the playoffs because with this COVID and with all these things, I bet you they stop worrying about that stuff in the playoffs. I bet you guys start passing COVID tests and stop going to strip clubs, et cetera, whatever they have to do. Now, LeBron already said he doesn't want to go back in the bubble. So whatever they're going to have to do to keep these guys on the floor. But this regular season is strange. And then you have 4 teams all shake up their roster right now in like the third week of the season. So it's going to be real hard from a betting standpoint. This is going to be a tough year to make money unless you just want to ride some teams. Like, you want to, the Lakers are going to be good. The Bucks are going to be good. The Clips are going to be good. But you don't know what you're going to get in the middle of the pack, Mike. You're absolutely right.
So that's why I thought, is it smarter to just look at the schedule and try to pick out games where we feel confident in, like, when they're coming off a certain type of series, certain situations, just looking at the schedule, you can kind of pick games where you think, they got a good shot there. They're playing at home, whatever, stats wise. I don't like using stats, but you know what I mean?
I think TJ was saying something last week, and we talked about a little bit like T's playing 3 games in 4 days, or like two in a row on the road, stuff like that. You're probably right. Instead of picking every game, pick spots where maybe get some situations like that.
You got
to pick winners, but people are betting. You know what I mean? So we need to pick exact things, narrow it down.
TJ? When we're doing that, it's important to keep in mind, and I think anybody who's listening understands that things in the NBA can change. So you say something on Thursday, and then you guys are out with COVID on Sunday. Well, what are you going to do? And the number's going to change, the line's going to change. So it's important that if you're going to be betting basketball, you should be paying attention, like hyper focused, because things are changing all the time. The lines change like between 4:00 in the afternoon and 7:00 at night. The line can change a point or two, and it makes a difference. And you really never know what you're going to get. So I think Kev's right. We talk about trends and teams that are trending up and trending down, but buyer beware, because 5 minutes before tip off, guy's taking a rest day. He's taking a rest day, and it's terrible. But like tonight, the Sixers, I could have predicted this win 100 times. Because you just knew they were going to come out and play good tonight. If you've been paying attention to them at all, they're probably up 20 by now. But then there's other teams where you just can't figure that stuff out unless you're in it. And Denver's one of them right now for me. And I think Cleveland got a lot better. I'm going to ride Cleveland all year. I think people can make money on Cleveland.
There's no sport that it's right up until the moment more than basketball. Like if you follow it that day, you kind of get a feeling what's going to happen that night. Whereas football is more of what's happened that whole week ends up in one day. You know what I'm trying to say? Does that make sense, Brother Ray?
Yeah, and the thing with basketball too, and TJ mentioned it. You have stars that are out for whatever reason. You really got to start to know these benches. Like who's coming in. Like they lost that game against the Nuggets, but Maxey came in, and no one could predict he was going to score 39, but if people didn't like him, a lot of people thought he should have been a lottery pick. He's been showing, he's been playing well all year. He got the chance and he produced, and they almost have won that game. So, you got to know kind of who's there. So when you have to make those tough decisions and you're looking at, all right, who's coming in, that could either help you go for that team maybe, or go heavy against them because that. They're done. It's like you said, there's five people on the floor. It's not like football where you can kind of get around somebody if it's not a quarterback. If it's a lineman, A lot of these teams, you shuttle somebody in, it's not a big deal. NBA, I mean, it makes the whole difference. So you got to know these benches.
Yep.
And rolls on top of it. And right now with this trade, you're going to see a couple of guys in Brooklyn that weren't playing are going to have to play now with LeVert being out of Dodge. Like, you're going to have to see some guys and see how they play, because there's always, see, that the secret about the NBA is it's a league of opportunity. Like, you can't be a bum and be in the NBA. So a lot of these guys are really talented players, and they're just looking for an opportunity where they can play. And they get some minutes and they can take advantage. And then you find some of these other guys that you think are going to be better than they are, like PJ Tucker, who I'm so tired of hearing about. He can get more minutes, right? He can get more shots right now in Houston. He's still going to be the same guy he is. He's just PJ Tucker, but I think in Brooklyn, you'll see somebody who maybe surprises fantasy players. You can probably buy low on a couple of guys on their bench because there's minutes to be had.
That's true. Kev?
Yeah, I wanted to ask CJ a question just about Brooklyn and depth and what the team looks like now. Because it's funny, one of the things that you heard a lot of when Kyrie and KD were going over there was they like the culture, they like the players, like the locker room, all that stuff. All the guys they said that about are gone, right? and the depth is gone, right? And they have DeAndre Jordan's their center. They got the three players we talked about on the perimeter now. They lost Dinwiddie's hurt. Allen's gone. LeVert is gone. Like, are they? They look like they're a brand new team, and as this brand new team, when they finally do get in the groove, are they actually a championship contender?
Oh yeah, because I think depth matters much less in the playoffs. I mean, don't forget Joe Harris is still there. They kept on to him, right? He's a good shooter. He'll have shots because you really at some point you're gonna have to help on these other guys. But when the playoffs get here and it's like possession by possession, they have three like A+ level finishers and scorers. Like, now think about it. I think Philly will probably finish ahead of them in the regular season, but when you get to a playoff game, who would you rather have, Kevin Durant or anybody? You'd rather have James Harden or Ben Simmons, and I think that those matchup problems, they're just nightmares. And I hear all this stuff about, well, they're not going to defend or they don't defend because Harden, Irving, and Joe Harris don't really want to defend, but in the playoffs, guys will defend. Like, I feel like Kyrie can give you a possession in the end of a close game. He's not Patrick Beverly, but if he wants to, if he's invested, he can. And Durant's still 7 feet. So yeah, I think they're a championship contender. And I think they're the most talented team in the East in the front five. Now the bottom of their bench, I don't know who's hanging around. And there might be some guys hanging around right now, like at their house, that they got to call up to fill that bench. But, they can find some live bodies and fill some minutes in the regular season. Wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs.
Can we be honest, though, that, like, the league itself has become extremely soft? Like, players have, like, maintenance days. Like, they can only go 2 days on and 1 day off. Like, when did that bullshit start? Like, I know we're dealing with the COVID thing. There's that issue. I get that, right? But in the other sense, when did that all start? Like, when did they all have days off? They needed days off. We now know that they don't care about the season. Like, it's now so obvious that they just don't care about the season. But back in the day, they led you to believe they cared in the season. So you were like, you cared too. I'm having a hard time with some certain games because it's like, those doesn't even look like the team's trying. So that pisses me off as a fan. Like, you can't do that. Like, I show up every night to watch you, so you show up every night to fucking play, right? So that's my hard time I'm having with the basketball right now. I keep watching it, and I'm going, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't Doug Peterson me. Don't even do that. Like, I've already had that shit happen to me. Like, just play the game. Like, you should be happy to be in the NBA, shouldn't you? Like, should you not be happy to be there in the NBA and having a ball? Trying to get in the court every time you can.
I don't think these empty arenas are doing us any favors as fans in terms of these guys showing up and playing at their highest level. Like, that feels an awful lot like summer league in some of these games. You bounce around League Pass and you're like, what? I want to watch. It's my responsibility to watch. Like, I want to know this shit, but you walk in and it's like, it's summer league. And coaches are wearing polos now. Like, it's all casual. It's like, if you guys don't give a shit, I want to give a shit.
They gotta do it. They gotta do it. They gotta show interest in these games. Like, I get it because I'm still gonna watch them. That's the worst part of it. I'm still gonna watch it. But it's like, come on, at least show me, right?
but no fans doesn't help. And then the other thing is Popovich started this, at least made it mainstream when he got that older group and he started doing these maintenance days with Duncan and Ginobili and scheduling them 3 days out. Like now everyone's doing it. But what they don't understand is Popovich was doing it with old guys. We're doing it with like Kawhi. Like we're doing this. Embiid's been on a minutes restriction from the day we freaking drafted him.
I have him in fantasy.
And it's like, what's he on a minute? He's 26 years old. He's 28 years old. Like, let the guy play. If he gets hurt, he was going to get hurt anyway. And it's like, yeah, it makes it. There's a frustration level. And then they made the playoffs now are like 3 months of playoffs. So it's really 2 seasons. So which one counts? The second one.
Brother Ray?
I mean, how would you like to be a hardworking family in Milwaukee, right? Dad works hard, mom works hard. You get the money to take the family to a Bucks game. You save that money, you put it aside, you get there, you pick up your beverage, you go to sit down. Oh, Giannis isn't playing tonight. Sorry. Like, that has to affect the fan base. At some point, that's going to affect the NBA, and not in a good way.
No, I don't. Kev?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with all this, Mike. You remember in the before the season started, I was pretty outspoken on all this. I'm trying to, rein myself in a little bit, but it's hard to watch these games where it's obvious nobody cares. I don't know, it's tough. The only thing good about it, I will say, from a betting perspective, is once these teams establish themselves and they get in their rhythm, it's the same thing every night. And I told you guys this before. I made a lot of money betting NBA quarter totals. It becomes because the teams you're getting. As long as the only problem is the rest days. You have to know who's starting. Make sure who's starting. When someone comes back from an injury, you factor them in. But they're like clockwork after a while because they don't care. Every night they go out and do the same thing. All those mid-range teams, they just come out and crank it out, and you can, from a betting perspective, it actually gets easier after a while. But then when the playoffs start, the games matter. You have to throw out all your models because nothing they did in the regular season matters, and you have to start over and take a week off and reset all your baselines. But I have a hard time watching the games. It's easier for me to watch the stats or to catch up on the stats after.
Well, I guess not to be like the last toll in the death of basketball, because I mean I love it. I'm just saying, like, what if you're like one of those teams that like it's not one of the main teams that has enough money to go out and get all the famous stars. Yeah. Like you're not like LA, everything's like movies and you can do all that other bull crap, and or Brooklyn, which is basically based out of New York. So what I'm trying to say is, like, what about like those teams? Like I guess the Pacers is what I'm trying to say, in a sense, like that type of team. But if you're like on that team, you're just not gonna win it. You're just not gonna win it. But well, what about those guys? What about those fans? Like how is that like? Like the Knicks. If you're Stu,
God,
losing something that just is plaguing him. Being a Jets fan, being a Knicks fan. That's tough. That's real tough. But like if you're a fan of the Knicks, they're not gonna win, right? But you got.
The funny thing is, they're probably more frustrating than the Pacers because they have a big market. They have money. They have everything you need to put a strong program together. That's why they're Stefano's team, because they have all the resources you can possibly imagine, and they still suck. Pacers, you're not going to get, KD was never going to go to Indiana. Kyrie Irving never going to go to Indiana. And so they keep churning through. They're like small market baseball teams. That's just the way it works. And if you're a fan of them, you're screwed.
The small market only exists. Like the small market baseball teams only exist so that the Yankees have somebody to play 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the same thing in the NBA. It started off as a barnstorming league. It kind of still is. Like the reason we have the Pacers in Sacramento and Oklahoma is so the Lakers have somewhere to go and just to spread the game. But when I'm looking at young teams from a betting standpoint, and I know you said, King, like they have no chance to win. But if you get a young team like how the Kings were last year, where you got guys that are trying to become pros and like make their way in the league, that are going to come out there and be like, yeah, like the kid Fox is like, I'm trying to be a player. Colin Sexton's like, I'm trying to be a player. That's a lot different than just having a team like Oklahoma City, where you got Al Horford over there just talking about, I'm just trying to get these checks and get out of here. So you're going to have two bad teams. There's degrees of that. I'd much rather put my money on the team where you got Harrison Barnes out here trying to turn himself into like a rotation guy in a playoff team, as opposed to, George Hill, who's like thinking about when he was young and how it used to be fun, and now he's got to go to work. So it's two different kinds.
I got in trouble from the last podcast for saying Al Horford was old too many times. Someone didn't like that. I kept saying how old he was because I saw him at a Celtic game, and I kept yelling to him how old he looks. I'm like, "You're looking old, Al. You're looking old." By the way, I just said the word "old" as many times as I did the last show. So,
hold on, I got to ask Ray a question because he wasn't here last week. So, when they signed Horford last year, was there any part of you that was happy about that?
He doesn't match. He doesn't match. Like there was no match. Like you look at team building, and you can't space the floor with Al Horford and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. You can't space the floor. So I mean, we talk about Harden. Harden is the perfect floor spacer in combination with Embiid. Absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. Horford was the complete opposite. Complete opposite.
It was never not only did I think he was a bum in Boston who was overrated. Are you in Rhode Island? Are you in this market?
Yeah, I'm in Rhode Island.
All right, so you got to hear these guys tell me about how good he is at setting screens and throwing bounce. All this. It's funny. He was always good at shit you couldn't measure, right? Always never good at anything you could measure. Always good at shit you can't measure.
Great bench guy, right?
Yeah.
Great bench guy.
Or all that bull crap, right? While they're paying him $200 billion. But there was never a second where I thought Horford to Philly was going to work out, like at all. And for him to be in Oklahoma City right now, like that's a team that when they're 10-41, like they're just made to be blown out.
All right, can you guys see on the parquet? Can you see right on here at the top the Friday games?
Not really.
I can just pull them up.
Orlando, Boston, New York, Cleveland, Dallas, Milwaukee, Memphis, Minnesota.
Yeah. Okay.
In lieu of going through every single one, how about this? I'll say the name of the teams playing each other when I'm done. Bring up a game that you think is a lock, or
You want a lock?
confident. All right. So Orlando at Boston, New York at Cleveland, Dallas at Milwaukee, Memphis, Minnesota, Chicago, Oklahoma City, Atlanta, Utah, New Orleans, LA Lakers, Clippers, Sacramento Kings.
Boy,
which one of the games ring something? TJ first.
I mean, the lock of the night is Cleveland. The Knicks going to Cleveland. That was
mine.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the lock of the night. And I'll tell you, you got to really, really love basketball, or you got to have a friend on the team if you're going to watch that Chicago Oklahoma City game. But there's going to be 14 fans. It's going to be everyone's spouse. But Cleveland, I like what Cleveland's doing. I don't think the Knicks have anybody that can guard their guards. Cleveland thinks they're a playoff team. He's got balls, that owner over there. He really does. He's not scared to pull the trigger. I'm glad they were involved in that trade. And that's the lock of the night.
All right, give me two other games though, guys, so I can get a 3-team parlay, Brother Ray.
I mean, I'm looking at that. I probably have to go with the Clippers. I take the Clippers against Sacramento. Again, I'm not impressed with Sacramento so far at all. A lot of players on that team that I really don't like. I think the Clippers have been solid with Kawhi and with that lineup. I don't know. I would probably go with the Clippers. Be the second team.
All right, Knicks, Clippers, Genius.
I think I'm going to go Lakers.
All right, that's for Friday night. We'll say that's our or at least our 3-team parlay.
King, good question though. I'm curious what TJ and Brother Ray think about Dallas, Milwaukee. Just because Porzingis and is Dallas going to make a statement? Is it a doesn't matter game? Like we said before. But what are your thoughts on Dallas, Milwaukee?
Well, they're going to try and they're putting it on ESPN. So
Yeah,
they're going to try and make it matter. It's in Milwaukee. I'd probably give the edge to Milwaukee, but if you want one other game, you want to go to a 14 parlay. There's no way that Atlanta's going to Utah and winning. No way.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I
Utah's
hope
a good team. Utah's a good team.
All right.
yeah, they always are somehow, even though Gobert's making more money than like anyone ever should pay him. But
Yeah, but good for him. I always
Yeah.
think good for him, right?
good for him.
What's he gonna do? But,
Say no, let me turn this down, guys.
all right, Saturday. Here we go. Ready? Houston at San Antonio, Orlando at Brooklyn, Charlotte at Toronto, Detroit at Miami, Philadelphia at Memphis, Atlanta at Portland. What sticks out? Genius.
Oh, sorry, somehow I lost the screen here. If you don't mind, jump one of the other guys while I get back.
Well, they're giving Atlanta a back-to-back on a Friday, Saturday at Utah at Portland.
Yep.
That's just
Brutal.
That's just mad. That's angry to do that to a team like Atlanta. So them coming off a back-to-back, especially if they stay in the game on Friday night, then they're definitely going to get torched on Saturday.
Late night
They
game.
have the legs to do that there.
Late games too, TJ, like a 10 o'clock game.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd stay away from the Hawks this weekend all day. And Philly's going to beat Memphis.
That was fine.
All right,
I
so
like Philly over Memphis. I you know what team I really like?
go
I
ahead.
like Charlotte. I do like Charlotte this year. I think they have some potential. And certain nights they bring it. I mean, I think they'd be a good pick against Toronto. Toronto's not a good team.
So then I would have to say, wouldn't Brooklyn be a easy win over Orlando? You know, like when like a brand new wrestler shows up and he's going to be the next big thing, and they send some guy out there that's like a no-name guy, because I hate Orlando, and they pick that no-name guy up and just smash him like squash match, like it happens in like 2 seconds. Isn't that going to happen there? Isn't like Brooklyn all of a sudden going to just destroy them, TJ? No?
I'm not betting a cheeseburger on Brooklyn until I watch them play a game.
Yeah.
Like I reserve the right to ignore them until I have to watch and see how it looks, because it can go in too many directions. They can win by 40. They can fist fight at half court. Like, I just don't know what's going to happen. And you mentioned Charlotte. Charlotte's playing Toronto right now and just cut it to 6. So they show up and play. Rozier's a hell of a pick by Ainge, even though it took him a while to get there. But he's trying to turn himself into an all-star. Like he's on the path.
Couple
All right.
of players on that team that have that really trying to be NBA players, like you said before.
So give me my 3. Genius.
What do we have so far?
I don't know. I got lost.
Philly. I think we liked Philly was 1.
Yeah.
Portland.
Portland. And I don't remember what the other one was.
Utah? Did you say Utah? Did we say Utah?
Utah was Friday.
Friday, I'm sorry.
Ray, you like the
Charlotte. I like
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
All right. I'll put Philly, Portland, Charlotte. Moving on to Sunday, which, by the way,
Hey.
my
Sunday-
favorite day of basketball. For some
Sunday
reason.
scares me. Sunday's NBA games scare me because they look too easy.
Yeah, but they're like my favorite days. They always put they put the best games, like the matchups, the names. It's those. It's like the NFL equivalent of, like, you know, like when Green Bay plays like the Bears. It's like New York's playing Boston, Cleveland, Washington, Chicago, Dallas, Philly at Oklahoma City, Utah, Denver, New Orleans, Sacramento, Indiana, the Clippers. I know I went fast, but what games stick out to you guys this weekend? Like that you think could? I think New York Boston's gonna be a great game, first of all. But all right, what do you guys think of the games, TJ?
I feel like you could look at that slate and be like, 7 of these are simple, and that's how you know you're not going to win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, those teams just in theory, Boston, Cleveland, Dallas, and Philly are locks, right? But they're not. They're just not. Something's not right about that. I'm looking forward to seeing the Clippers Pacers, because the Pacers compete and the Clippers are weird. So I think the Clippers will win that game. That's probably the pick of the night if it were me, and it's a game worth watching.
Brother Ray?
I like the Sixers. I really do. I mean, I don't know. I think if they're healthy and they got players on the floor, people forget right before they got hit with COVID, they were one of the best teams in the league, if not, record wise. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess Oklahoma City, I really like the Sixers there.
Don't forget, that's the second night of a back-to-back for them, Philly.
Yeah.
No Embiid.
So we won't have Embiid in one of those 2 games, because why would a 28-year-old superstar athlete in his prime be able to play 2 basketball games in a row. I hate to put him out like that.
I have him in fantasy, and he fucking drives me nuts because he could crush, but I know he's not going to play certain nights. It's like I got him for 4 games. No, oops, no, I don't. I got him for like maybe 1 or 2.
You know what pisses me off more about when Embiid sits?
God damn it.
When Embiid sits, can Ben Simmons pick that night to go be aggressive?
Yeah, right?
Like, you can't be passive on the night. If you want to be, Ben 12 points, right, which he probably did tonight because I was getting mad at him earlier. If you're not going to be aggressive in the games when Embiid's getting 30, okay, whatever, man, that's you. But on the nights when you have to be the guy, then you got to go get 25. And, it's in his toolbox. I don't care if he makes a jump shot. Shaq couldn't make jump shots either. The nights he'll be passive on the nights when Embiid sits and you just look and it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are we dealing with you? You almost look better with Shake on the court.
I don't get him.
We are in certain situations. I mean, he can't hit 2 free throws if we need him to. The majority of the time. How many superstars can you say they can't shoot and they can't hit free throws? It's crazy.
From that position, because if he was playing the 4,
right.
And if he's an athletic 4 that can't, there's a whole bunch of guys like
Sure.
that. Like, Sean Marion types, for goodness sake. If you're going to be Sean Marion, go be Sean Marion. But you can't be having the ball in your hands this much if you're not going to be aggressive, especially on nights when the paint's wide open, because Dwight Howard gives you the first 6 minutes of the game, and then he's sitting down and we're small the rest of the game, and Ben Simmons doesn't want to score. It kills me. It's not as bad as watching Horford, though. Nothing as bad as Horford.
So to bring us really back quickly, so the 3 teams that we can agree on
Sunday
as locks for Sunday. What do we got? What do we got? What did we just say?
Oh, we just said
you think it's what? We're going to be easy. You said what? Boston, Cleveland, Dallas?
Boston, Philly, and Boston, Philly, and the Clippers.
Boston, Philly. All right. So what I want to just recap, because this is the part where you can track us. The only pick that I have may have an issue with is Brother Ray's Charlotte pick, but I'm still gonna back him up. I guess I got his back. I'm still gonna roll with that one. But here's what we got. So for Friday we have the Knicks, Clippers, Lakers. Saturday is Philly, Portland, Charlotte, and then Sunday is Boston, Philly, Clippers. So
no, we didn't pick. There's no way anyone picked the Knicks on Friday.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do we get the Knicks in there?
Yes, the Knicks.
We picked the Knicks to take a
Cavs, right?
on Friday.
Yeah.
Maybe you picked the Knicks in your top left corner over there.
Yeah, we picked the Cavs, right? Cavs.
Yeah.
Damn it. I was hoping it was the Knicks. Cavs, Clippers, Lakers. Is that what it was? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
God damn it. I was hoping for the Knicks.
Were you trying to sneak the Knicks in?
I guess I was. I really, really was, So, all right, Cavs, Clippers, Lakers, Friday. Saturday's Philly, Portland, Charlotte. Sunday's Boston, Philly, the Clippers. Yeah, I think that's pretty solid, those games.
If you ever want to bet the Knicks, just text me. I'll take that bet all day. Any game. Doesn't even matter.
I like the Knicks. You don't like the Knicks this year? I think they're over 500. They're pretty good.
I want the Knicks to be good. There's certain teams it's good for the league. If the Knicks are good, if the Giants are good.
Yeah, but
the Redskins are good. I just wanted to say Redskins. I can't forget.
Yes, that's a hard one to keep from saying. I struggle. But some genius. Let me ask you this, just to kind of close this up, because we are nearing the 1 hour mark in the left-hand corner as the bell tolls. When you're playing these games, last week, as far as you're watching the games, you're watching how they panned out according to the spread. When using teasers, what would you suggest the point breaks? Because you have steady ones for football. I know you have what 5 and 10. You want to break through 5 and 10 as far as a teaser. In basketball, would the same rules apply, or what would be the break numbers you think for basketball?
That's an interesting one. Do you want TJ? Because NFL it's like 3, 6, 7, 10, 13, 14, like almost in order. But I'm curious what how TJ looks at it, because I think he probably knows a little bit more about key numbers in basketball.
I never bet teasers. Never really do.
Yeah.
Just play with the number. It's hard enough to figure out a basketball number as it is. You start adding all kinds of variables. I guess if you can tease something down to a push and just pick a winner, obviously it's in the NBA, it might be a little bit easier to do that, all things considered. But I don't really try and mess with that number because it's changing so much during the course of the day anyway. Like start off, you're giving 3 and then you're giving 5 by 6 o'clock at night. And it's like, okay, which way am I teasing this thing? I don't even know which way to go anymore.
But here's the thing. Here's what I did notice, Kevin, and I think this is why you probably could use it, and it'd be interesting to figure it out. Because certain games and certain teams, they'll run it up at the end of a game to like X amount of points. They literally have an average of X amount of points that they win by, right? So you can kind of factor that into it, like the tease, yes?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. What I usually try to do is figure out like the points scored, points against, compare them against the average, and then try to rank the teams that way. So it's kind of rudimentary. And like I said, but I wait a few weeks until the teams kind of settle in, and then you have to watch which players are in and out. But that's kind of how I try to find baselines. And then if you can tease through what the differentials are supposed to be, then I'll do it. But it's but you need data. Like you need more games played, and the stuff with the rest days and the COVID days, and when is a team running with eight guys or 7 or bench players is making it tough this year. But you have to always compare against the average for the league, and see who's above, who's below, how they fit against each other, and then try to adjust for some personnel. So it's some of the same stuff as football. But it's funny. It's probably a little bit harder because of the variance on the lineups. Like you said earlier, we wait all week for one football game. All the news gets processed. Everything who's in, who's out, unless you're the Rams and you hide your quarterback until right before kickoff. But for the most part, who's in, who's out, and you can kind of start working on it on Monday for a Saturday game. Basketball, we have to figure it out, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon for a tip-off a couple hours later. So you have to kind of have your models all set and almost do it purely by math.
Real quick, guess who has the best record in the NBA against the spread?
So it's not as simple.
Huh?
Wait, let me guess. I have no idea.
Chicago Bulls. Now, who the hell would guess that?
Wow, the Bulls.
The Bulls, really? Wow. Yeah, see.
Telling this team they're 8-3 against the spread.
Well, all right. Hey, guys, we hit the 1 hour mark. We're doing good. I'm enjoying this. I like to talk basketball. I love to talk. Actually, I love to talk basketball, and it's hard to find people. But we get a lot of I get a lot of weird emails about this. Like people want to hear basketball talked about. It's that sport where it's constantly like I can't explain it. You know what I'm trying to say? It's got that pop to it. Basketball's like it's stories after story after story. There's always something going on. And now, like with Brooklyn, it's like. That's like a major motion picture. Like that's incredible, right? Like basketball is great. TJ, any last words before we get let it go?
Gentlemen, no, that's it. Enjoy your weekend. I feel good about these 3 teamers that you got there. If you bet all 3 of those, you'll hit 2 of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Genius, you keep going like Max Headroom, but
yeah. Thank you.
Coke.
All right, Brother Ray, you're looking happy. What do you think?
Sixers won by 20.
Sixers, yes.
All right, good night, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Legit Fantasy Sports. Please check out the website. Please click the thumbs up on the videos. I keep saying that, but we need that so we pop up in more people's feeds. We need to spread like a no, not going there. Legit Fantasy Sports. Thank you, guys.